to veterinary epidemiology and public health. Today, we're tackling economic epidemiology, the cost-benefit analysis and decision-making tools behind every veterinary health decision. Here's the core idea. Every time we choose to vaccinate, test, treat, or eradicate, we're making an economic decision, whether we name it or not. Over the next 13 minutes or so, you'll learn how to count the true cost of disease, run a cost-benefit analysis, build decision trees, and test how solid your conclusions really are. These are heavily tested concepts on the ACVPM Epi-Specialty Board, so let's build a framework you can apply to any scenario they throw at you. Let's get to it. We talk tools, let's appreciate the scale of what we're dealing with. Animal disease drains more than $300 billion from global livestock production every single year. Single outbreaks are staggering on their own. The 2001 UK foot and mouth epidemic cost around £8 billion, and the 2015 US avian influenza outbreak ran about $3.3 billion. But here's the encouraging side. Well-designed programs pay off. U.S. brucellosis eradication returns somewhere between $3 and $7 for every dollar invested, and it hits the clinic too. Feedlot respiratory disease alone costs the U.S. industry roughly $900 million a year. Economics isn't abstract here, it's the language of animal health. Good decisions, we first have to count every cost a disease imposes, and there are more than people think. Direct costs come in two flavors: productive losses like reduced milk, meat, or reproduction, and control costs like vaccination, testing, and biosecurity. Then come indirect costs, and trade restrictions are usually the biggest of all. Remember 2003, when a single BSE positive cow cost the US $3 billion in export markets overnight? Beyond the farm, governments carry surveillance and indemnification costs, and zoonotic diseases add human health costs. Finally, the intangibles: animal suffering, producer stress, environmental harm. They're real, they're often left out of the math, and the exam wants you to remember them. Build the cost-benefit analysis framework. 6 steps you can apply to any program. Step 1, define the question. Exactly what intervention are we evaluating? Against what comparator? And from whose perspective? Producer, government, or society? That perspective choice drives everything that follows. Steps 2 and 3, identify all costs and all benefits, including avoided losses and trade access. Step 4, value them in dollars, using shadow prices for things without market values. Step 5, discount future values. A dollar saved next year is worth less than one today. And step 6, calculate the benefit-cost ratio. If it's greater than 1, the program is economically justified. Equal to 1 is break even, less than 1 means the costs win. Put that framework to work. Should our producer vaccinate her 500 head herd? The vaccine costs $8 a head, so $4,000 total. Without it, at a 15% attack rate, should expect 75 cases at $75 each. That's $5,625 in disease cost. With the vaccine, the attack rate drops to 5%, just 25 cases, or $1,875. But add the vaccine and vaccinating, which totals $5,875. So vaccinating actually costs $250 more. Not cost beneficial here, but watch what happens in sensitivity analysis. Raise the attack rate to 20%, and now vaccination saves over $1,600. The decision flips. Sometimes you can't convert benefits into dollars. How do you price animal suffering prevented or lives saved? That's where cost effectiveness analysis comes in. Instead of money, you measure outcomes in natural units: cases prevented, deaths averted, or dailies. Then you calculate cost per unit of effect, and the lower the ratio, the more cost effective. Take Johne's disease control. Program A, test and cull, costs $3,000 per case prevented. Program B, biosecurity, only 2,667. So B wins. But here's the key limitation, and it's testable. Cost effectiveness analysis tells you which approach is most efficient, not whether intervening is worth it at all. For that yes or no question, you still need cost-benefit analysis. Decision trees help us reason clearly when the future is uncertain. The structure uses three symbols. A square is a decision node, our choice point, vaccinate or don't. A circle is a chance node where probabilities branch into disease or no disease, and the endpoints are outcomes, each with a value. Then we work backward, right to left. We call it rolling back. At each chance node, multiply every outcome by its probability and sum them to get an expected value. For our herd, vaccinating has an expected cost of $5,875 versus $5,625 for not vaccinating. So at a 15% attack rate, not vaccinating wins. The real power, trees make your threshold assumptions visible and easy to challenge. Reached a conclusion, but what if you're wrong? Sensitivity analysis stress tests your decision, and there are four flavors to know. One way varies a single parameter to find the break-even point where the decision flips. Two-way varies two at once, mapping the regions where each strategy wins. Probabilistic analysis assigns distributions to every uncertain endpoint and runs Monte Carlo simulations, thousands of iterations producing a range of outcomes with confidence intervals. And threshold analysis asks the most practical question: at what value does my recommendation change? Look at the tornado diagram. Attack rate swings the result most, vaccine cost least. The goal is robustness. You want your benefit cost ratio to stay above 1 across every plausible value. Now, scale up to the program level. When does it actually pay to eliminate a disease completely rather than just control it? Eradication means a big upfront cost, but zero ongoing burden once you succeed. Control avoids that upfront spend, but accepts disease costs forever. Which one wins depends on your time horizon and discount rate. At some break-even point, the discounted future savings from eradication exceed that initial investment. Eradication is favored when there's high disease burden, big trade benefits, a manageable upfront cost, and critically, no wildlife reservoir. U.S. brucellosis checks every box and succeeded, but bovine TB in badgers or white-tailed deer, that reservoir keeps reseeding infection. So the smart economic move shifts to long-term control. Saying value the benefits, but how do you price things with no market, like animal welfare or peace of mind? This is the toughest part of cost-benefit analysis, and there are several methods. Stated preference or contingent valuation simply asks people their willingness to pay. Powerful, but prone to hypothetical bias. Revealed preference is more objective. It infers value from real behavior, like the price premium buyers pay for cattle from disease-free herds. For zoonoses, the human capital approach values lost productivity, medical costs, and mortality. But it's always a lower bound because it omits pain and suffering. And daily monetization using WHO thresholds lets you compare across diseases and sectors. Know these methods for the exam. Let's bring this down to daily practice with 4 tools you'll actually use. The workhorse is partial budget analysis. Count only what changes. Take mastitis treatment. Weigh the new costs, like antibiotics and discarded milk, against the gains, like restored yield and avoided culling. In our example, the net benefit is positive $55 a cow, so treat. Enterprise budgets give full production level accounting. Use them when deciding whether to enter or exit an enterprise entirely. Whole farm budgets capture system-wide interactions, which matter when one disease like BVDV hits reproduction, growth, and respiratory health all at once. And there are free tools out there: USDA budgets, extension spreadsheets, herd management software. Partial budgeting, though, is your everyday answer. Finally, let's zoom out to policy. How do we decide which disease programs to fund? It's a five-step process. Step one, rank diseases by total economic burden to find the hotspots. Step two, identify which of those actually have feasible interventions ready to deploy. Step three, calculate a benefit-cost ratio for each, with uncertainty ranges, not just point estimates. Step four, rank by that ratio. Above 1 is potentially fundable. Well above 1 is high priority. But step 5 is where reality bites. Economics is an input, not the final word. Equity, feasibility, and politics reshape the list. High return programs for poor smallholders get underfunded, while low return programs with powerful backers get prioritized. Groups like the FAO and World Bank use exactly this framework. Let's pull it all together with your clinical and exam essentials. First, the disease cost taxonomy. 4 components: direct losses, control costs, indirect costs like trade restrictions, and intangibles. Count all 4 from the right perspective. Second, cost-benefit analysis. The benefit-cost ratio equals benefits over costs, and greater than 1 justifies the program. And always discount and run sensitivity analysis. Third, cost effectiveness analysis ranks how to intervene when you can't monetize benefits, but it can't tell you whether to act. Fourth, partial budget analysis is your practical farm level tool. And fifth, decision trees make choices under uncertainty explicit using expected values. Master these 5 and you're ready for the board questions. Next up, spatial epidemiology and GIS. See you there.